Okay guys, I've been featuring some phenomenal cost no object speakers, but it's time to pump the brakes a bit and share with you a budget find. I had some intuition on this speaker and it really paid off. Stay tuned. Okay guys, I did a YouTube short featuring these Neumann KH80 speakers. Bought with my own money, no manufacturer or distributor sent me these, dealer asking me to review these. I just bought them with my own money because I had a good intuition about Neumann already, but at CES earlier this year, all the way back in January, these stood out to me in one demo that I had done. And I was like, I got to get them at some point. And I have enough experience over the years. I've heard enough things that when I hear an outlier, I hear something intriguing, it resonates with me and I file it in my back of my head. And it was the same for Potpourri, in fact. And I'm going to have a review coming up soon back to Cost No Objects of my Potpourri Victorless. But not to talk about that as much as Neumann caught my ear at CES. And I finally got around to now having a BACCH system on my desktop. And I've been testing the planar that comes with the DRC squared from BACCH. You've seen that also on YouTube Shorts, and I'm gonna have a lot more on that. But that's a $20,000 integrated package with everything, including stereo sub. So it's going to be out of the price point of some people. So I wanted to think, hey, if I was just starting out, what would I get? Thinking of myself 40 years ago starting out, and what could I recommend to people? Because it's often a question I get asked. So I wanted to try these myself. My intuition really paid off. These, in many respects, are a true outlier. There are many good bookshelf speakers or desktop speakers. I'm not saying this is 100% going to be the best in all situations. I haven't tested them all. However, this one definitely stood out. And now that I've had it and measured it, it's actually quite impressive, even more so than I initially thought. With a few exceptions. I'm going to go through it in a little detail. Why is this an outlier to me? Just on subjective alone, I started playing my YouTube playlist, just YouTube recordings, and I was getting goosebumps on every song. And that's almost never possible with a low frequency compromised speaker. So let me just show you some of the measurements, because as a macro point though, before I even get into that, I like to evaluate speaker makers on their budget models, because physics, you can't defy physics. They're having to make trade-offs and compromises at these budget models. But the ones that navigate those trade-offs the best and still give you something you can get goosebumps and enjoy the music from, those are the companies that I really like to support and recommend to people. And that's why this model from Neumann has elevated them in my perception so much. And people may think of it as a pro audio type company. No, sir. I mean, think of them as pro audio, but think of them as better than 90% or more of audiophile companies in creating a desktop bookshelf speaker. It's phenomenal. And not only did I hear it with goosebump factor, I've measured it. And one thing I want to show you, yes, it is low frequency compromise. So let's get that out the way. It does roll off pretty steeply at 70 hertz. But remember, these are measurements taken at the listening position in my ear. So that's, distance away in my ear, in a room where it's not getting boundary reinforcements or anything. That's not that bad. And then also, because these are in-ear measurements, this can be pretty much flat. But once you get to 1,000 hertz, don't pay attention to this, because this is going to be a fingerprint to everybody. Their ear pinna and their torso will impact everything you hear here. So this will never be flat. Now, if I take the mics out of my ear and just hold them up, then you would want it to be flat. But the BACCH is really great with the in-ear measurements, because that's what Edgar spent 10 plus years developing, an algorithm that can tell the difference between human influences over 1,000 hertz and speaker issues. And I've shown it even with the GRE search in extremes. It found the issue with the speaker versus my ears. And here we're seeing the filter have to do almost nothing over 1,000 hertz. Really well done with the waveguide and how it performs linearly. But even in the more difficult areas, all the way from 100 hertz to 1,000 hertz, you're not seeing, this is what the filter is doing here. This is the frequency response, and this is what the filter is doing to get that response. And why is this important? Because you can get anything flat. If you boost 10, 12 dB and have ridiculous, EQ, you can get anything to look flat. But what are you having to do to get there? Here, we're doing a max gain of only 2 dB and getting totally relatively flat. And I want to show you what the BACCH does, because this is really a testament to the speakers plus the BACCH. Pre-BACCH, it's still a pretty flat speaker near field, but it does have exactly the type of trade-off that I like to see in a speaker. No real big peaks or dips showing maybe driver mismatches and crossover issues. Again, this is actively crossed over, active speaker. It's all above board where this is easy to just attenuate and even out for room issues or whatever the distance can create these issues. And then because it's cutting off at 70 hertz, yes, that's not all that great. However, it's very easy at this point to add a sub. And now, yes, your initial investment's low, but whenever you have the budget to upgrade, your first upgrade, sub, and now you have a full range, nearly flat speaker that doesn't need a whole lot of DSP. And with the BACCH, it will measure it with before any correction, so you know how it natively performs, which I'm very impressed with this, in room at my ears. Again, this is not anechoic, okay, or clipple or any kind of estimates. This is actual in your ear. Estimates by definition are not accurate. They're estimates, and so they're wrong. Optimal is what the BACCH says, this is what we should get it at, okay? And then what the BACCH does, unlike Dirac or almost any other software, is that it measures it after it applies this filter and says, how close did we actually get to this target? So many times I saw Dirac curves and it said it was going to be flat, but it just didn't sound flat to my ears. Turns out if you measure it after the fact, there's always going to be some anomalies. But here it just almost mimics, mirror on top of each other. The filter translates to what the speakers can do. A lot of times when you're having to boost a lot for a speaker, and a driver's just not capable of doing it. You may boost 10 dB thinking you're going to get rid of that dip, but no, the driver itself isn't capable. Everything about this speaker is designed really well, the right type of trade-offs at this budget point, but then when you apply DSP, you get phenomenal results because anything you do to it is not overexerting the bass, it's not having to add a lot of gain, and this is tremendous performance. And so, yes, are there trade-offs? Is it going to sound, I would call it, if I had to, without a sub, it will sound a little bit one note because one note bass is how I call it, because really below 100 hertz, you don't have the texture and definition and extension all the way to 20 hertz that kind of gives you more of that non-one note, but it's not enough to ruin or corrupt your enjoyment of most songs, and you can still get goosebumps. And in many respects, I can almost see some people, even though the measurements say otherwise, thinking that this could be a bass-heavy speaker, and I'm going to explain why. Because under 200 hertz, especially 200 to 100 hertz, almost no speaker performs flat. There's always like a room dip somewhere, and there's always very exaggerated peaks and dips of most people's, especially if you're farther away from your floor standing speakers in a non-optimal room. And so you get used to dips that, especially if you don't have a BACCH to correct for it, or room treatments, you're used to suckouts between 200 and 70 hertz that you're not even going to get with this. And so your perception of bass, which really starts at 200 hertz, could be even more, that this has more bass than what you're used to. So this is very important to me to see this kind of performance and what their trade-offs are. Okay, we're going to give you great speaker here. Add a sub if you really want this, but we want to get you great here. And it really pays off. You can enjoy any song. I'm going to play a little bit for you. I'm not going to skip an opportunity to give you, like I always do, YouTube clips and stuff that I think sound poor on streaming, worse on streaming at least, than they do on YouTube. And here's a case where Chris Stapleton, this is my favorite song he does, not Tennessee Whiskey or any of that Audiophile one that they always play, because it has a bunch of bass or whatever. This is a great song, and this is just from like a Jimmy Kimmel back in 2020. Yeah, I know he's kind of polarizing right now, but anyway, it's recorded okay, but it still sounds better. And this is a song that on many people's floor standing system, no matter how much they spent on their big speakers, it often sounds bright. It often sounds sibilant. His voice doesn't sound natural. But here on a YouTube recording, late night TV show, sounds really nice. Hopefully this won't get blocked. Sorry if it does, I'll have to cut it off. And you can play this song yourself on your own system, but let me give you a little taste here. Hopefully you can get it. Okay, so putting that music in there, hopefully you got to hear that. It does ruin my video for being able to make any money off of it, but I like to give you guys this kind of examples so that you can at least hear it. I do have a way to make money from this particular one. I do have, if I haven't mentioned it already in the video, I have an affiliate link for this so that people know where they bought it, but it's exactly how I bought it. Again, nobody gave this to me. Nobody asked me to review it. So this is strictly because anytime I link my Amazon links, it's going to have an affiliate commission because I have an Amazon store. So just an FYI, but you can buy it without using my link as well. Just find it on your own. But I have that in the description if you want to buy this speaker. And there is a matching sub. I won't put the link to that. I don't have that handy. But if you want to get the sub down the road, they do make one. I hope you enjoyed, guys. I'm going to give you guys one more bonus track, just a few seconds, because I want you to be able to tell just from the first few seconds of this. Yeah, it's on YouTube, but it's also on a DVD. How much better this version of Carnival by Natalie Merchant is versus the streaming original LP version. So I'll play just a few seconds, and you're going to be able to tell right from the start, before she even really starts singing, how much better this is and why I'm such an adamant proponent of some of the YouTube content for better quality of music, better performances, and you get the visual aspect. But here's a few seconds. Yeah, so that should be enough right off the bat to tell you this is better than the original. But yeah, watch the whole performance here. Watch her whole Storyteller DVD. I think you'll love it.